Hello everyone. So today we're working on the Mugen. Don't be alarmed, it's not mine, it's my brother's. Say hi, Mikey.
What's up?
So my brother came to visit, and every time he comes to visit I like to look over his car to see what's doing, and he had a clutch replacement and it's been boogered up. He had problems with his pedal making a lot of noise. So I have taken it out. Usually for me to remove this pedal it takes me like 3 minutes, but because whoever did the job last time, and I'll explain what they did, was that they used 13 mil bolts, which takes me longer to get the job done because I'm expecting it to be a 12 and I have to go around and find a 13. But either way, we're going to talk about what I found to be issues with my brother's car. Alright, so in the beginning, the pedal inside the car was making horrible noises that I always see people complaining. And I'm always like, well, mine doesn't make that noise. It doesn't make sense. But we're going to get to that in a few. So the first thing I did was what I always do with any 8th gen is that I flushed it, got new fluid through. I used my handy dandy compressor and vacuum pump to pull out the old fluid. So I'm gonna open it up so I can show you how dirty the fluid was real quick. Let me open it. Alright, if you guys can see, it's a little like greenish looking, bluish looking. That's not what it's supposed to look like. It's supposed to look nice and clear. So the fluid was contaminated, but when everything was pulled out, I did not see any like water or anything that would be too concerning. It's just all fluid. So I was like, okay, so the hydraulics are okay. Not too worried about them right now because he did get a new master cylinder, but not the slave. So I thought maybe the slave cylinder is causing the issues, and we'll talk about that in a few seconds. But let me put this back together. Alright, so like I mentioned, I flushed out the fluid with the vacuum because that's the best way to do it and not have airlock and having issues bleeding. So I just sucked the fluid out through the slave master cylinder, which is like obviously down there. He had a new master cylinder installed when he did the clutch, and back then they had new fluid, but it's been a little bit. My brother's in the army and he's been gone for a little bit, and he just got back to country, so we're looking over the car. Anywho, we're gonna get to what I found as far as issues. Obviously, you guys can probably start guessing. So my brother had his car taken where?
An automotive shop over in Crawford, Tennessee.
Alright, so an automotive shop. And this is his original pedal. They told him they installed a brand new pedal, but if you can see right here, it is not a brand new pedal. Alright, it's been welded back together because yes, it was cracked. So that was one of his problems, why he was having problems, pushing, with his clutch, and why his original clutch wore out prematurely because it wasn't shifting properly. So that's one of the problems. I mean, they welded it, right? But we'll get to what some of the issues are. So first, I was doing my normal. So I grabbed some silicone spray. If you guys can see, there's overspray here. And I sprayed it here and on the master cylinder spot, right? Because that usually eliminates all the squeaks and whatnot. But this had a really wild squeak. So when I'm looking at this, I noticed that he had way too much play here, and we can see right here, this is the pin that was in there. Hopefully you guys can make it out, but you can see that it's worn, right? The reason that it wore out is because his pedal was missing this bushing right here. See if I can get it out, right? So me being me, having a spare pedal, I took the bushing off of mine and put it on his because it's little brother, right? And I was like, okay, but now we're going to put it back because we'll talk about what's happening in a second. I'm going to use this pedal on his car now. But this bushing was missing, and missing that bushing, all right, here's a new pin. Well, not new, but a used one that's not worn out. You guys can see that it will have a lot of play. All right, let me see right here. See all that play? So all that play, little by little, started to wear that other pin. And what caused that pin to wear out, all right? And it also wore out some of the pedal, but I was like, the bushing's gonna take up the gap, it'll be fine. But his gap was getting bigger than it was, and all of that metal to metal contact was causing all that squeaky and annoying noise. So If you guys have a pedal like this with that issue, all right, verify that your bushing is there, not broken. And you know, if you're missing one, get one and install it on your pedal to fix your noise problem. All right, so try to get that back in there. I'll push the pin back off camera, but either way, this bushing, I mean. So then we get to after we did the fluid flush on the car, and we installed the bushing here and installed a new pin. All right, the car felt normal, as other than it kept having this weird, like it was like something was hitting. And to me, at first, I was thinking that maybe his slave master cylinder was bad, because there's a restrictor in there and it was probably clogged, not letting the piston inside the master cylinder from going back fast, so that the you know, because what happens is if that piston doesn't come back fast and you step on your clutch pedal, you'll make a pop sound, because you know there's a gap. However, in the beginning I wouldn't hear it, but when I press the pedal in further, I will hear it. So this is what happened. All right, what they did is, when this was welded, it wasn't welded straight. So this assembly is at an angle. So what happens is that you won't be able to tell, because this is a very strong pedal. But right where are you at? Yeah, right here. It's shiny, but you're not gonna be able to tell too much, because this is very sturdy metal. All right, but it's got a shiny spot without paint, which means that this pedal was hitting the firewall, and I will show you guys where it was hitting. All right, so in here, see if we can see it, but that's where the pedal was hitting. All right, so that's where I was getting that annoying sound. See it right there? The pedal was just scraping against the firewall of the car. So that's what that sound was, because this pin right here, oh well, the CMC is loose now because the pedal's not in, but there's no real play there. That's normal play. You should have a little bit of play, but there's no big play. So that tonking sound was from that area right there. All right, so like I mentioned earlier, so one thing I noticed was that there was no lube in none of the friction points, right? Same thing with the when they did the clutch, they didn't lube the CMC where it goes into the fork. They didn't lube inside, so it's still making some squeaking sounds here. The only way to fix the squeaking sounds in the engine bay are to remove the transmission, lube the points on the fork, and reassemble it. But he's got to get back to his state, because he doesn't live in my state. He's in a different state, so that's going to have to be taken care of in another time. So for now, we're going to just go ahead and replace this pedal and install the good one, which is this one, and then take the parts off of this one. All right, so I'm going to just swap these two sensors over, and once this is inside the car, I'm going to adjust this sensor and this other sensor over here, because you want them to activate properly, but you don't want them to be interference with the pedal travel. So I'm going to adjust these first, and then once this is in the car, since I already know that the CMC is in a good adjustment point, I'm going to adjust the sensors inside the car to get the correct amount of travel out for this pedal assemblies to work properly and not give him any issues down the road. But for now, I'm going to swap over the components to this and get ready to install it into the car. Alright, first things first, so this is your neutral safety switch. Believe so, yeah, because it's, I don't know which one does what. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I can look it up and let you guys know, but it's irrelevant. This is the one that goes at the top, right? So when you install these, right, you want to have your pedal, right, on the down position. So this, hold this right here. So this is the down position, all right. And now what you want to do when you install this sensor is to get that pin, well, not the pin, but I'll show you real quick. Oh, you want this thing, little switch, all the way down, and the best way to do that is by looking in here and turning it until what you see the metal is about to start touching the rubber grommet. Once it touches, just back it up a little bit, and then, you know, by hand right now it's just locked down, and then I'll use a wrench to lock it in place. Now the other spot will be at the release position, and when you install this one, all right, what you want to do is you want to get it until it starts to push the pedal forward. All right, you don't, because if you go too far, you're loosening pedal travel. You don't want that. So you leave it all the way to the back, like so. All right, and then at the end, when it's inside the car and we have the this area hooked up, I'll close that gap up without pushing the pedal forward, because this is gonna be held to a specific location with the master cylinder. All right, I hope that makes sense. But let's move on. Okay, so before installation, what I've done, I've grabbed some white lithium grease, and I sprayed it on this side of the pin with the hopes for it that would penetrate through. Same thing on this side. All right, and then also in the inside part where the pin slides through, to try to get some inside the pedal assembly and also the spring. Why? Because we're trying to minimize the squeaks and the noises that this thing might experience. All right, so this is ready to be dropped into the car, and then we'll do the final adjustment on this part right here, on the whatever switch that one is. But we want to go ahead also and talk about the pin. So this is the pin that I got with this pedal assembly that I was keeping safe for the future use, and the future has come. This is the bad pin that we talked about being inserted, that was wearing out and damaging the pedal assembly, even though that pedal assembly is bent. And this is how that place secured said pin, with this cotter pin, old Yankee looking. They just threw it in there and bent it at an angle, and I'm surprised it didn't fall off. By the way, here we have the correct pin that I'm going to be using on this, because we like to use the correct stuff. And I'm also going to go find two 12mm nuts in my nut and bolt pile, because those 13s, come on, they literally just slow me down. So we're going to go ahead and grab some nuts and get this thing ready to be installed. Okay, so obviously I didn't go through the teardown, and yeah, we're about to clean the car. Don't worry about it being dirty. It's fine, it's fine, it's fine. I know some of you guys are going to be like, oh, so dirty. Hey, we all live different lives, and this guy's busy. So first you remove this, of course, lower cover. Once you get to your pedal assembly, you got to disconnect these two wires, right? And there's also this retainer that is gonna be on this bracket right here. The way I get that out is that I use these needle nose that are bendy tip, and I get to it, and I press the little two tabs in, and then I remove that, and I unplug these two, and then it's out. To remove the pedal from the car, all right, is what I like to do is I get a universal joint with 12 mil, and then there we go, on the left side of these two sensors, you're gonna reach up there and get to it and take that out, right? And that would be this bolt right here, all right? And for the two side ones, all right, same thing. I'm gonna grab my universal joint, because I'm from the bottom going into it, and you're gonna get to it just like so, and take it out. And same thing on the other one, you get it in there and you take it out. So I'm about to just install this, and I'll try to position the camera. Hopefully I can catch it and you guys can see. It's kind of dark in here, I don't have a lighting for it, but so you guys can get the gist of at least installing it. And if you're taking it off, it's just reverse order. Okay, so when installing your pedal, you're going to just move your wires out of the way. You can hold them up with something anywhere, and you're gonna slide the the master cylinder through the big hole, and then you're gonna slide it through the two studs from the master cylinder. All right, then you're gonna grab the correct size 12mm bolts. Somebody put 13s on it. I took them out. Because next time I work on this, I want to be able to just work on it and not be looking for a whole bunch of tools that I don't expect using. So there's that nut in there. Now I'm going to put the top bolt in. It's a bit of a pain because the one back down here is hard. And typically I use gloves because all of this metal can cut your hands. But once it is started, what I'm going to do is bring it in just enough so it can hold everything in the right position before I do my final tightening. So bring it in by hand, starting to get hard, loosen it a little bit. Same thing with this one. Alright, a grab, back it off a little, and then the pain one, which is the one back here, I'm going to try. That's why I do the other two first, so it can maintain this as sturdy as possible while I try to get this other one in there. I'm going to go in there, try to make sure it's straight, and then start screwing it in. And it's started. I'm going to put my headlamp in so I can see better. Okay. And my battery's dying, but it's fine. So, like I mentioned, you want to make sure if it's hard to turn, you're probably cross-threading. So back it up and start again until you feel that it's going in by hand and smooth. Alright. Alright, so for the inside one, I'm changing tactics because it's not going in by hand freely. So I grab this combination, which is just the right length to fit behind here and give me the room that I need to turn it, and try to keep it as straight as possible. The goal is not to strip it. And good. Just make sure. Yep, it's straight. So now we're gonna send it with impact. So I'm gonna get this one in first. So this is the hard part. The bolt on the inside is the hard part. A bit of a pain. It's not being nice to me today. Alright. And this one here. Like I said, you want to keep everything loose until your final tightening. So now the top one, actually I'm going to tighten this down first. Okay. And now the top one. And we're going to verify. Where you at? Okay, I already have a little problem trying to get this pin lined up because the clevis is a little too far out. I'm going to try to push it and slide it up. There we go. Alright. And let me back this up. The clevis, you guys won't be able to see, but it's too far out, which is going to create pressure against the master, and we don't want that. So I'm going to have to run this in to bring it to what I call the neutral position. But before we even do that, alright, we're going to do this right here. So like I mentioned, you need to adjust this, right? And to adjust it, your pedal needs to be right around here, right? Try and keep them even. So what are you gonna do? You're gonna turn this one until you see them right there. You don't want to make it like 100% flush. You just want to make it a little bit even, and right there it looks good. So that's where I'm going to keep this pedal at, and I'm going to lock it down. One thing I want is better access to this, so I'll put it right there so I can push this pin in, and that's perfect. So I'm gonna go ahead and lock it down. Give it some room for play right there. Boom. Sorry. Now you grab this wire, lock it in, get the top one, put that one in, and then the bottom one, same thing. Alright, now it is 30. I still need to adjust this to line it up, and then we'll see if I still hit the firewall, which I shouldn't. Okay, so let's talk about this. So I loosened this nut, alright, and then I back this pin until the clevis lined up with the hole, and I slid the pin, the retainer pin into place from the back. Alright, what you're looking for, hopefully you guys can see, is that free play. If you don't have that free play right there, you're going to maintain pressure on your master, and by maintaining pressure on your master, it won't allow fluid to go down into the system, and eventually you're going to have problems with disengaging your clutch. So you want to make sure you have that little bit of play right there. Hopefully you guys can see it, but this is normal play. This is what you're looking for. All right, there's nothing under pressure, and everything's adjusted properly. If you push this rod out further and you don't have that play right there, like I said, you're gonna have issues. So you want that little bit of free play right there. All right, before we start it, right now, see how smooth, no sounds, no squeaks, no nothing, and I'm not hitting this spot right here because now I have a gap. Hopefully you guys can see that. Now I have a gap against away from it. Before the other pedal was riding all on this metal right here and making that noise, that clock sound. But right now, that is normal play and no noises. Everything is perfect. Everything's been lubed and ready to hopefully last another. How many miles this thing got? 163. Cool. Another 100, and I'm gonna say 70. All right, but this is perfect. So I'm gonna install that pin, and then we're gonna test the car, make sure it shifts properly. But so right now, this is a perfect repair and installation. We're just gonna check the clutch engagement to see if we need any additional adjustment for the clutch to engage at the proper height. So like I mentioned, you install the pin from the back. There's a spot where it needs to slide through, and this is your little safety retainer clip. I have them always facing downward because if they're a good clip, it won't fall off. But there it is. Now it is safe, it is installed, and damn, that's so much nicer than before. Because I'll show you that other sound. That's, like I said, coming from the transmission. But 1 second. All right, go ahead and pump the clutch. Slower. If you guys can hear that, that's the sound I'm talking about, which is coming from inside the transmission, and I cannot get to unless I remove the transmission. All right, and I have a fork. I'm gonna see if I can pull it out real quick and show you guys exactly why it makes that noise so you guys can understand better. All right, so this is one of my K-series transmissions. This is K20C3 transmission, so it'll be specific to this car, even though what I'm going to talk about applies to all the freaking K-series transmissions. So your slave cylinder will bolt up to these 2 points right here, right? And it's got a pin that comes out and pushes on this right here. Well, in here you're supposed to have grease. This is dirty, so don't worry about it, but in here you're supposed to have grease, and that can be a noisy spot if it's dried up. My brother's car was experiencing noise from there as well. Alright, but the problem is that this pivot point right here I cannot get to unless I take the transmission out, because I have to remove all of this out of the way. So basically you have your throttle bearing and your fork. Alright, so let me get this out. Yeah, there we go. So this is that other pivot point that I was referring to. Get back there. Okay, so this requires also grease. Alright, if this is dried up, is when it's going in and out, there's no grease in here, it's going to make an annoying freaking sound, which is what you heard earlier. Right, and basically let me just Put this back together. Okay, let me see if I can make it. So if you're ever installing one of these, you want to put grease here in all the friction spots. Just compare your fork to it, lube it up, and make sure that everything that touches to the other one gets lubed up first. All right, once you have it lubed up, ready to go, and lube in here, you're gonna slide it through just like so. All right, and you're gonna lock it in. That's it. So I'm going to simulate the CMC. All right, I'm gonna be the pressure plate here pushing down, and I'm going to simulate. So that pivot point right there, all right, that's what's going to cause your noise if there's no lube in here. All right, so that's that lube point. This typically doesn't make those noises. This does get some lube, but not much. All right, the main lube point is going to make all the squeaking and all the noises and crap is going to be right here. All right, so like I said, to lube that properly, you need to take transmission out. I did, however, try to feed that little tube and spray through the back right here, and try to lightly spray it to get into this spot right here. But you don't want to do that too much, because if you get enough of that spray in here, you're gonna get grease or oil or whatever you're using on your clutch, and you don't want that. I was lightly spraying it, trying to see if I can get to that spot, but it's impossible. I need to remove the transmission, and that's not something that we're doing today. We'll do it in a future date. All right, so other than that, I hope this explains some of the stuff that you guys are going to encounter while messing with the noisy clutches and pivot points and all that stuff. And hopefully this was informational for y'all and explain some things, you know. But for the meantime, we need to talk him into getting a supercharger, because that's not baller. And I'm sorry, I don't do turbo. Alright, so yeah, we're gonna get this car back up to 100%. Now we're gonna do a quick wash, a quick vacuum to remove all the nastiness, and we're gonna polish it to get it to look a little bit better, because this car got resprayed, but they didn't do such a great job as far as making it shiny. So that's where I come in. So we're gonna try to do that. All right, guys, have fun, take care, peace. And here he comes. We're gonna get a verdict to see if it seems like he's happy with it. All right, so how do
a brand new clutch.
feels like a brand new clutch now?
Yep.
And the squeakings
All gone.
all gone, except for obviously the one inside the transmission, but you're not gonna hear that really inside the car.
Can't hear nothing inside now.
All right, sounds like we don't need any additional adjustment then. It's engaging properly.
Gauge is good, shift's good.
A win.
A win-win.
All right, this time we out for real. Peace.